There are seats in the front, folks, if you would like, over here. Make yourself comfortable anywhere. Come on in, don't be shy. I'm not going to call on anybody unless you want to ask some questions. I've heard people say this. I've said this. America has the best health care in the world. And you know what? If you just modify one adjective, that's a true statement. This is actually the truth. Compared to comparably developed countries, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, the Netherlands, we have the third highest rate of cancer, the highest rates of obesity, heart disease, chronic disease, suicide, and the shortest lifespan. We're not at the top, we're not in the middle, we are the worst. What the heck is going on? The biggest share of the federal budget is healthcare. We are $36 trillion in debt. What happened to this guy? He could solve every problem in 30 minutes. What has gone wrong? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a half-hour talk. To tell you everything that's gone wrong, I need to speak for an hour. Now, I've given 1-hour talks, and I've listened to 1-hour talks on medical stuff, you know, the Krebs cycle. And here's what happens to me 40 minutes into a 1-hour talk. I'm thinking, I think I want spaghetti for dinner. And Donald Trump's hair kind of looks like spaghetti. It goes back and forth like that. He must be going bald. And my friend Joe is bald. What's that all about? I never asked him. Did he just decide to cut his hair off? It works for him. He kind of looks like Mr. Clean. And whatever happened to Mr. Clean? Is he still a thing? He used to have that earring on. What was that about? I don't think my kids even know who Mr. Clean was. And just then is when I'll hear the speaker say, and that's why a clover leaf on the New Jersey Turnpike is a lot like the Krebs cycle. And I missed the whole thing. So I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to talk for 30 minutes and then we're done. And I'm going to describe one important, I think, crucial part of this problem that we have created. And by we, I don't mean you, I mean we doctors, primary care doctors, internists, family practice doctors, pediatricians. We are a big source of this problem and potentially a source of the solution. To explain that one problem, I've got to tell you a little bit about why these two numbers no longer match. That describes lifespan, how long you live, and health span, how long you're healthy. Ladies and gentlemen, for all 600 million years that animals have lived on the earth, those two numbers were identical. And for all 60 million years that our primate ancestors have lived on the earth, those two numbers were identical. We were healthy all our lives, and then we died. And for all 300,000 years of our species history, Homo sapiens, those two numbers have always been the same. We've been healthy until we die. But now, as you know, that's no longer the case. And you and I routinely expect that for the last 10, 15 years of our life, we're going to get sicker and sicker until finally, disgusted, exhausted, and fed up, we die. That never used to be the case. And it all changed just 3 generations ago in the lives of your grandparents and mine, about the turn of the 20th century. 3 big things happened then. One was we stopped moving. The automobile brought with it a sedentary lifestyle. This was a huge change for human beings. The second was people started smoking in droves. It was about 11% in 1900, 40% of adults in 1960. You remember that. Our parents and the smoke that filled the living room. It was just what everybody did. And a third thing happened that was a huge, huge change. We started eating processed food. In 1895, 2 brothers in Battle Creek, Michigan invented this, Kellogg's Corn Flakes. And it marked the beginning of an explosion, a fundamental change in what you and I eat every day. And the consequences were disastrous. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1850, the death rate from heart disease was less than 1%. A century later, we had invented our leading cause of death. 40% of all adults died from heart disease. It was a catastrophe, and the incidence of cancer exploded as well. These were our two leading causes of death and have remained so to this day. We invented them by how we changed how we live. Now there's an irony here. I just got done saying, really, if you think about it, healthy food and exercise are indispensable to a healthy life, right? And ladies and gentlemen, if I asked each of you to raise your hand, did you know that? Everybody's hand in this room would go up. We all know that. You gotta eat healthy food, you gotta get some exercise to be, we all know that. Nobody needs to be told that. But if that's the case, why is it that these two numbers are true? 95% of Americans are deficient in fiber, and 95% of us don't get more than a half hour of exercise a day. Why is that true? And by the way, if you're fiber deficient, you're not deficient in Metamucil or Colace or Senecot or Miralax. You're deficient in plants, right? Only plants have fiber. Animal food has 0 grams of fiber. We do not eat enough plants. Hunter-gatherers ate 10 times the plants you and I eat every day. Now, they had to run around a lot. They were more active. They had to take in more calories. But still, holy cow, that's a lot of plants that you and I we're not doing it. And what gives? If we all know how good that stuff is for us, why aren't we doing it? And here's where I come in. Just my opinion. My training is about two things above all, and every other allopathic doctor trained in the United States and around the world says the same thing. We're trained to diagnose disease and treat it, above all, with drugs, right? That's what I do for a living. That's what I know how to do. And when you come and see me in the office, there's not a complaint you can have that I can't solve with a drug. Your headache, your insomnia, your reflux, your diarrhea, your constipation, your rash, your high blood pressure, your low blood pressure, you name it, I've got a drug for it. I'm not criticizing drugs. My point is to say, we really created a paradigm, didn't we doctors? A way of thinking about health and disease, such that you and I have both become acclimated to when something's wrong, you come into the office, and what's the first thing we think about? What are your meds? Bring your med list with you. I don't ask you, bring your list of what you ate the last 24, 48, 72 hours. I ask about your meds. And that's what we adjust, that's what we change, that's what we refill, that's what we stop, that's what we start, that's what we increase. It's about drugs. And it's only natural, isn't it? After years, after decades of working this way together, you and I, that you would stop really taking exercise and healthy food all that seriously, because when do we even talk about it? At the end of the visit? Don't forget, get some exercise, eat some healthy food. I will, doc, see you, bye. I didn't mean it, and maybe you didn't either, because we both have other things on our minds. This, ladies and gentlemen, has to stop. We have to do better. And you and I, working together, really can. And I'm not talking about something that works around the edges. I'm talking about something that would be a revolution in healthcare if you and I did it. And we can do it. The evidence for it is overwhelming. Let me just show you 2 studies about exercise. Here's one done in 2024. They looked at basically 2 groups of people. One group was unfit aerobically and one group was fit aerobically. And each of those groups had normal weight, overweight, and obese people within those groups. And the question was, who did worse among those 6 groups? And the answer was only the unfit people. The people who were aerobically fit, regardless of their weight, had far lower risk for death and disease. It's a matter of fitness that determines our health, not our weight. Here's another study, 2018. They looked at 120,000 people, and this is my favorite slide, as boring as it looks. Because what this slide tells us is two things. One is they looked at people who were doing no exercise and all the way over to elite athletes. And they looked at their risk of dying depending on the amount of exercise they did. And you can see from the chart that the more exercise you do, the lower your risk of dying, right? You'd expect that. But what I love about this is it shows two things in addition to that. One is there's no plateau. The more exercise you do, the better. Wow, that's impressive. And you might think that's kind of depressing because now I got to go out and be an Olympic athlete if I'm going to be healthy. And actually, no, that's not true. The second thing this slide shows is look who does the best. Look who has the biggest reduction in risk of death. It's the group that went from no exercise to below average, from here to here. That's where the slope is steepest. If you want to improve your health, just start moving. And the benefits are staggering, right out of the block. Yeah, the more you do, the better, no question about it. But that's really good news. Exercise is just astoundingly helpful. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Given where our species had been, given how well we had done for all those millions of years, and how it suddenly changed with that fundamental change in the level of activity we do and the food we eat, it makes sense that it ought to confer a huge benefit. And it does. I'm going to tell you about 3 more studies in just 3 minutes, and then I'm done with this talk. Before I get to those 3 studies, let me ask you, are you starting to feel like this? I hope not. Every talk I give, I have to include this slide. You know why? I just like this slide. Sometimes Heidi asks me, what are you doing in there? I say, I'm working on my talk. I'm just watching this slide over and over again. 3 great studies about healthy food. Really, really impressive studies. They looked at over 120,000 people over up to 20 years. And these 3 studies in aggregate showed the same thing, every one of them. They compared 2 basic groups of people. People who did what I'm advocating that we do. They got regular exercise. They ate unprocessed food, plants above all. They maintained normal blood pressure and cholesterol levels. And they compared that group who was living well to a group that was not. And the difference, the risk reduction for heart disease was staggering. 80 to 95% risk reduction just by eating well and getting exercise every day compared to not doing that. Unbelievable. The most effective medicine in the world, ladies and gentlemen, is aspirin. If you're at risk for heart disease, you take an aspirin a day, you reduce your risk of a heart attack by 1/3. That's a lot. It's nothing compared to this. It's just staggering how effective this is. So, you know, I've been practicing for 25 years now, and for the first 15, almost 20 years, I did it the regular way and thought, this is what I was trained to do. I'm just going to focus on that. What could go wrong? Everything is going wrong. This isn't working. We're in real big trouble here. And the irony is, we can fix it for $0 and 0 cents. And it really works. And what I would suggest, folks, is that when you and I get together for those annual visits, and maybe at other times too, that we just dive into the weeds on what kind of food are we eating, what's working, what's not. If it were really easy to eat healthy food and get exercise every day, everybody would be doing it. The truth is, we're living complicated lives, and it's not as easy as it sounds. And many of us have other things that get in the way of that, arthritis, what have you, that's going to make exercise difficult to do. Well, that's the game. That's the challenge. That's what we're supposed to work on, you and I together. And my point is, the payoff is huge. It's not that exercise and healthy food are good for us. It's that there is no substitute for doing those. With them, anything is possible. And without them, that difference between health span and lifespan, we're stuck. We're really talking about not living longer, although as it happens you do when you eat really good food and get exercise every day. I don't think that's the real benefit. The benefit is we get to enjoy our lives until we die. That's huge. And that's what we should be doing. So that's my request for you. Next time you meet with your doctor, say, hey, I want to focus on this. I want this to be on the front burner, not the back burner. Yeah, we got to get to meds. Let's do all that. Let's do it efficiently and quickly. Let's talk about food and exercise, how much sleep I'm getting, how well I'm living as a person, and what can I do to improve it? What's my muscle mass doing? Is there a way to increase it? It's a good conversation to have. It's crucial. I hope this has been helpful to you folks. Thank you so much for coming.